Hey everyone, my name is Dave Nixon and welcome back to another episode of the Pick and Flow podcast. Today, this is part of the BSFT30 program and we're going to be talking through what I refer to as the 90-50 rule. Now, the 90-50 rule actually goes back to, it was a story told by Tim Ferriss, and I can't remember if I read it in a book or if I heard him talk about it on a podcast. But in short, before he actually published the 4-Hour Workweek, which I do believe was one of the first books I read, but I do believe he actually got denied by 17 publishers beforehand. Interesting. So either way, he went across to a writers' convention, and he was speaking to these authors, these writers, these aspiring authors, some really well published authors, and they ended up after he asked all these questions, they go, "So what about you? Like, what's your story here? Like, what book have you written?" And he goes, "Oh, I've actually I haven't published a book yet. I've got my book's 90% completed. It's almost there." And these authors, who probably sort of sit in his shadow now, sort of scoffed and said, "When you're 90% done, you're halfway there." And I was just like, that is an absolute nugget of gold. When you're 90% done, you're halfway there. And the beauty of this is that so often, so many things, projects, manuscripts, workouts, businesses, whatever, get completed to 90%. And 90%, in many cases, can still be measured as 0%. So this idea that when you're 90% done, you're halfway there. But if you leave it at 90% done, it's 0%. And this isn't about encouraging this all or nothing black and white attitude. What it is encouraging is that it is so easy to do the next 10%, and it yields such a massive result. And so for certain, so often people talk to me and they're like, I start really strong and then I drop off, or I need to see results to stay motivated. So I get demotivated if there's lack of results quickly. And then there's this other sort of avatar demographic that just never finish anything. And I know I sit under that last one in the past. I would struggle to actually finish anything, from a meal to zipping up my bag to a project, whatever. I was so good at starting, and I struggled to finish. And so it is interesting when we look at those three sort of challenges, whether it's people start strong but don't finish, hence they never finish anything, but also the other idea of that I get demotivated by lack of results. Commonly, if I hear that statement, I'll be like, "So how's that working out for you?" And it can usually just shock the person as well. They go, "Oh, yeah, I need to see results to stay motivated." So, as if the pressure from a personal training standpoint is on me as a trainer. It's like, mate, how's that strategy working out for you? If you're here having that conversation with me right now, my guess is it's a shit fucking strategy and it doesn't work for you long term. And so the goal here isn't to bash that. The goal here is to completely shift the paradigm. And so the beauty here is when we start to shift that paradigm and see that that last 10%, it's half the work, but it 10x's your results. Sometimes it ends up 100xing because otherwise you wouldn't have completed it. But the last 10% is half the work and 10x's your results. Now this is the same, like I said, for business, for a workout, for writing, for a project, for cleaning the house, to whatever the case might be. It is profound. The way that we approach that is by going, I'm going to finish the way I started. If we do anything, if we finish anything the way we started, if we date our partner the way we started to date them when we first met them, if we finish the way we start with the same type of energy, then our majority of people's lives would fundamentally shift in 12 months. Fundamentally. The other one here is to understand that results are the outcome, not the pathway. So it's the idea of a lot of people get sort of stuck on the destination, right? That's what happens. But we need to walk the path anyway. And it's actually during that, there's actually a quote that aligns with this really, really well. And that quote reads, "The man who loves walking will go a lot further than the man who loves the destination." So I'll say it again. The man that loves walking will go a lot further than the man that loves the destination. And I do apologize for the battering next door at the mechanics, but I'm going to keep moving forward. Stay with me. as best you can. So the other thing is that motivation comes from movement. This is really key. This is really important, because when we look at motivation comes from movement, sometimes people get stuck on this idea of like, oh, I'm just not that motivated. It's like, of course you're not motivated. You're not doing anything. Motivation literally means motive, to move. What was the to move? And ation is the process thereof. So if you're not moving, you won't be motivated. And so there's a couple of key things that we want to lean on with this, or a couple of key parts. One is, do you have a clear goal on the outcome? Do you have a clear goal on what the outcome or what the finish line looks like for you? Or what the checkpoint, the reference point is? If you're not, we need to start there, go back to your DENT goals. The next is, what's your mental prep? And prep is a really important word because it means preparation. Before you do X thing, what is your mental prep? What are your mental frames? How are you framing this for yourself? How are you pre-framing your mind for what you're about to go through? Now, if it's a workout, as an example, like, is your mental prep like, oh, this is going to be tough, this is going to be hard, or it's like, how am I going to get through this? If that's your mental prep, you're probably not aware of it. It's probably a motivation strategy to try and get the most out of it. But the key thing with that is that you are backing yourself into this corner of like just attempting to survive something that really is a privilege more than anything. So your mental prep is like, right, what is my focus for this workout? What am I going to like, what's my core foundation that I'm going to come back to time and time again? So what's my core focus here? And then the last part here is that, is this thing you're doing meaningful? Is it meaningful for you? Like, what's your why? That's really what I'm pointing to and paying attention to here. What is your why? Is it meaningful? Because if you're going like, why am I even doing this? Then it's not meaningful. You're probably doing it for some other person's reason or some other person's benefit. And then you're never going to do an amazing job at it anyway, because it's on behalf of someone else's why. So once again, have you got a clear goal? What's your mental prep? And make it meaningful. Real simple. And so how do we actually have some clear goals? Well, we need to have some clarity on the outcome. What do you want to come out of doing this? What's the outcome that you're moving towards? Is it measurable? Are you in control of it? Are you setting outcomes that are out of your control? Which is where a lot of people come unstuck, because there are so many factors that we feed into, from mental, social, so other people, our own physical and habits and actual resources, and then the environment, the systems, the planning. There's so many of like in those factors that feed into an outcome. So what are you actually in control of when you look at what your actual outcome is, and are you clear on that? From there, do you have a clear intrinsic focus? So let's use the example of the workout again. Is your focus here with the 90-50 rule, is it on, I'm going to just pay attention to my breath and let my nasal breathing dictate my pace in this workout, because that's kind of what I got today, but that's my actual focus, and I'm going to pay attention to that. I've got a clear intrinsic focus that when it gets hard in the back end of this workout, I'm going to bring my attention back to that. As soon as I catch my thoughts getting distracted, that's what I'm coming back to. Is it an internal encouragement? What is the internal encouragement that you're running? Now, this is really deliberately worded. Internal, so intrinsic, and then encouragement. So I want you to look at the word encourage, right? And remove the first two letters, right? So the key thing with this is that, what is the internal courage to keep moving through those things that are difficult for you? Because it's in the difficulty where you get to find out, just of course, what you're really made of and all that, but you get to decide what you're really made of, not to find out what you're made of. In the difficulty, you get to decide what you're made of. That's different. And they're building blocks that you can build on. And from there, it's the state management. And be able to do state management, which is your physical state and your mental state and your emotional state. How do I maintain a sense of stability, certainty, focus when going through what can be exceptionally challenging in the back end of a workout or in any circumstance? So we look at breath, some internal encouragement, and then of course your state management. And then the last thing is the meaningful component. Do you have an emotive purpose? Is there emotion that's important to you that's associated with why you're doing what you're doing? If not, you're not going to give it your best, and you won't get your best out of it either. And so the outcome completely changes. So is there an emotive, as in important, emotionally important for you, purpose to why you're doing what you're doing? And bring that to your forefront, because when things get tough, you want to know why you're doing it, because that's going to help drive you forward. If you follow through with this, you absolutely will go from starting strong to just the ultimate outcome. You'll finish strong. You'll move past this idea of motivation, right? You'll mature past this idea of motivation, as opposed to going, I need motivation to do X. You'll move past that and realize motivation comes and goes, and it's usually very fleeting, and it's usually to do with some sort of motivation away. It could be about aspiration and about motivation towards, but really it's understanding that it's like a turbo, right? That's great, but you got to keep driving in that direction. If you're still and you hit turbo, you're going to go fucking nowhere. So that's really important. And then you will also lose this old identity. This old identity of like, I never finish anything. That's an identity statement. I never finish anything. It's like nothing. Well, you finish that sentence, so clearly it's not never finish anything. So where's this going? And so even changing the language to like, in the past, I used to struggle to finish things. That is completely different to I never finish anything. One is current, present, I never finish anything. And one is simply going in the past and like literally de-shedding that old frame and old identity belief. And on that note, team, I am done. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this podcast on the 90-50 rule. If you think that you know someone else that would also love this podcast, it would mean the world to me if you pass it on to them. Once again, this is part of the BSFT30 program. If you want to find out more about the BSFT30 program, it is a free program. You'll find out more in the show notes. You can also learn more about our immersions, our mental blank. Please cut that out, Colin. You'll also learn more about our immersions and our other programs that we run. And on top of that, you can get a copy of my book, Mining Yourself, anywhere online that sells books or through the link. But that's it. That's me done. I'm out. Until next time, peace and pizza. I'll see you soon.